Welcome to Rising Tides Live. I'm your host, Shawn Walchef. This is a Cali BBQ Media production. Today, we're talking about how to delegate. Probably one of the hardest things for me that I've had to learn. We do this show every Wednesday, every Friday. It's a live show, 10 a.m. Pacific time, 1 p.m. Eastern time, 6 p.m. London time, wherever you are in the world. We believe deeply in hospitality. We believe deeply in storytelling, and we believe deeply in technology. If that is you, we would love to have you on stage, be a part of the conversation. You can go to betheshow.media/rising tides to sign up. The more voices that we have up on stage, you as a podcast guest, you get to meet the community, connect, and wherever you are in the world, we have Rising Tide leaders. So we would love to introduce you. Whatever you're building, we have a Slack channel, we have a LinkedIn channel, we have an Instagram channel. Please send us a message. We will add you to those channels so that you are part of the community. You can't do this alone. So how do we delegate? I'm going to share a quick story about the restaurant. So I own Cali Barbecue, me and my wife, 18 years in San Diego. And this is the story of how I was the shittiest manager. So lots of restaurant owners wear a badge of honor where they want to be owner operators. And this is something that I had guilt knowing that if I wasn't there, maybe something wasn't going to get done right. And as we grew, we've been in business for 18 years. It was actually at the birth of my son when I realized how poor of a restaurant manager I was, because I was trying to do management duties and ownership duties at the same time. And I was getting in my own way. So got down to where I was only 2 days on the schedule. And those 2 days were opening shifts midweek. And then I would cover a shift maybe on the weekend. But every restaurant has a manager checklist, things that have to happen for the restaurant to function. And I realized that I would never do the checklist. And it was at that point where I realized, am I really helping my business? Or should I delegate this to somebody else? Should we build the system? Should we build the training? Should we build the tools to build a better business so that I can still be at the restaurant, but not be responsible for these tasks? The other reason that I wanted to talk about how to delegate today is because of this community. Rising Tides Live. So we've been doing these shows starting on Clubhouse since 2020, 2 shows a week, but I can't do this show alone. So we have a team. Mike Biseglia is our producer, Stover behind the scenes, Kyle. We have so many people on the Cali Barbecue Media team, but more importantly, we have so many people in our community that step up when I am not able to host. So today, mid-show, I'm going to ask one of our community members to take the mic because I have to go. I have a client call that I have to be on. So today we're going to practice in real life how to delegate, but let's bring up the community, find out who's on the call. Thank you so much for being here. Like I said, we would love to have you. If you're watching on YouTube, watching on LinkedIn, it's so much better when we get to see your face, hear your story. Let's start with Chris Tripoli. Who are you? What are you working on a Wednesday? And tell us a story about delegation.
Absolutely. It's so good to see you again. I've missed you. I missed a few of these weeks. What have I been doing? The reason I guess I've been missing a few of these weeks, I've been up to my elbows with a friend, client, small multi-unit operator who has been planning growth, and we just got some expansion committed and funds raised. So yay for him.
Awesome.
But it's been, keeping me a little bit, busy. But I like it. Corner Booth Podcast is what I'm doing with restaurantowner.com. Some of you are familiar with that website, restaurantowner.com, and I go way, way back. It's information. It's education for the small independent restaurant owner operator. So I've been doing content. We've got some exciting webinars and annual planning coming up for our members. And between that and hosting their podcast, it's been keeping me kind of busy. So that's about it. No, we want to jump into delegation because I loved your story.
Thank you. Yes, I was. I know a lot of restaurant owners struggle. And as you know, so restaurantowner.com, for those that are listening, it's the most important subscription and that I'm still subscribed to as a restaurant owner. The first subscription that I signed up for, we believe deeply in education. I believe the tagline from restaurantowner.com is a good restaurateur is always learning, which is something my grandfather taught me. And yes, So much valuable information on that website. The Corner Booth podcast is phenomenal. But tell us a story, Chris, about delegation personally.
Yeah, I was going to say, I really identified with your story because, for years I owned restaurants. I was fortunate to own restaurants and developed a small group, sold them, then did a. But I kept finding myself into that, what I call step one of ownership. We call it owner operator, and really what it is owner manager, like you were. You got to be there, you got to do it yourself, and you're winging it, and you're hoping that people are going to follow and learn from your example. And owner manager is step one, and that's what we spend a lot of time now with small restaurant owners and trying to break them, getting away from owner manager and becoming an owner operator. What's the difference? Well, the operator is actually directing others, developing a team of managers, and it's a process. I had a hard time doing it. I remember in my very first restaurant, and it was my younger brother who brought it up to me because I had hired him away from TGI Fridays, and he became my first manager. So here's a dynamic duo. We're on the floor, and he said, he called me out. We were in our first year. The restaurant's doing pretty well. No one's really learning, and it's because I'm not delegating.
Yeah.
And he said, if you share, you'll teach. And by teaching, we're going to learn. By learning, we're going to do better. Instead, you're like the quarterback on the football field who every time he drops back, immediately starts running, doesn't trust the team, doesn't share the ball. He's always running. And, eventually the team's going to get upset, so that, wow. Okay, so that's how it was called out to me, that I was stuck in that owner manager. So anyway, that's how I learned. And of course, here we are years and years later, and I've had countless clients. And this is one of the major things we work on. And that is the step-by-step process of getting people to understand delegation. Once they're able to release, let go, support, rather than just do, now you got a team and it's a lot better.
Yeah, it's understanding. Did you build a business or did you give yourself a job or multiple jobs?
Good point.
Do you want to be a business owner, or did you create a manager position for yourself?
Yeah.
Where you're probably the worst manager. If we're completely honest, you're probably the worst manager on the roster.
We're passing out our business card. It says owner. We're really a big time manager. We call ourselves an operator, but we're not operating any people. We're basically managing ourselves. It's not good.
100%. Well, thank you so much, Chris. We appreciate you. Vincenzo, you're up. Who are you? What are you working on a Wednesday? And tell us a story about delegation.
All right. Thanks for having me, Shawn. Hello, everybody. Yeah, Vincenzo here, longtime restaurateur, just like everybody else, owned and operated. Got stuck in the weeds, couldn't see the forest through the trees, right? So I had to learn to delegate. Just like Shawn, I had kids and I wanted to be more present with my kids. So I really just started measuring what was most important to my restaurant. I knew first I learned what was most important at the restaurant, learned how to measure that, and I came up with clean checklists, right? And just like you, Shawn, I used checklists and make sure that my staff would go through it. And after I started learning that it worked, at a flagship location, I started spreading that through other restaurant concepts that I started to invest in. So it was a natural progression, and it worked. But until you actually give it a whirl or give it a test, you wouldn't realize it would work so effectively. So
right.
But essentially, it was really knowing what mattered most, measuring what mattered most, and then having a checklist, to loop it. So that you can keep people accountable, so that at the end of the day you can deliver the experience that that you desire to give to your end guests, right? But aside from delegation, what I'm working on today, I work with a lot of quite a few multi-unit restaurant concepts in Southwest Florida. I introduce new tech solutions for these brands here in Southwest Florida. I also work with independents. And then lastly, I do a lot of deal structuring for fundraisers for restaurant tech startups. So that's really the crux of my work. And I find myself aligning with Shawn with everything that he's building on this platform here. So yeah.
I appreciate that. So let's ask the tough question, which is, we got the delegation from before. What should you be delegating today as you build your business? What's on your plate currently that you should find a way to delegate. Now, given all the tools that we have at our fingertips, we're getting to the point where AI agents can actually start to do some of the work that we wish we could hire out for. But yeah, what currently is on your list that you wish or you want to delegate?
I think the hardest thing is doing the R&D that drives the value, right? Doing that deep dive R&D and making sure that actually gets done correctly from the vision of a founder or a CEO, right? That's the hardest thing to delegate. So I'm digging deep on how I can be more effective there, because that's where I contribute the most value. So I don't know. I guess at some point I might learn something from somebody here today on that.
There we go. Amazing. Raquel, welcome to the community. Welcome to the stage. We're so happy to have you.
Hey, Shawn.
Please introduce yourself. Let everyone know who you are and what you're working on a Wednesday. And then please share a story about delegation.
Okay, sure. Well, first of all, thank you for having me here, Dean. I didn't know you were going to invite me. Otherwise, I would have, I don't know, be more presentable. Anyways, I
You're very
apologize for
presentable.
that.
Thank you for being here.
I'm a big fan of Shawn. Actually, we've had him in our podcast with my boss, who's Xavier Maria Escurrena. And I work at Over Easy Office. I am the executive assistant of the two CEOs of the company. And what we do is that we support restaurants and other entities in the hospitality business by giving them back office support, specifically in accountability. That's what we do, and I support both of the CEOs. And then let me tell you a little bit. Let me tell you a story about delegation. I am the one that usually gets delegated to, if that makes any sense in English.
It makes a lot of sense.
Like,
Yes.
this is another view of what delegation means. I know all of you guys are CEOs, owners, but I am the one who gets all of the work delegated. And delegation is very important, because if you know who to delegate, then you will get things done the way you want it to be done. So delegation is important, but know who to delegate. I think that's the key to have all of the work properly done. So I don't know if this works, this helps.
Very
This
helpful.
little bit of insight of in the thematic of what you guys are talking about.
It's very helpful. Can you share a story about how I guess best practices, because getting it to the right person is one thing, but then how every leader is different, how they explain things. I'm somebody that will take a screenshot and will send it to the team, and my team is probably rolling their eyes because it's like, where's the context, Shawn? Like, how can you tell me, like, this is a from an email, and I don't know who this person is, and how am I supposed to know? Like, can you share kind of best practices as somebody that does receive a bulk of two CEOs that are sending you information?
Yeah, I guess the best thing is to give a direct order and a time frame to do the work, right? Do X, Y, Z, and I want it for Tuesday. And I've been working as an executive assistant for more than 12 years. And believe it or not, I've had bosses that have given me instructions on doing something, but they are not clear on the direction and or the time frame. So that's something that seems super easy, but sometimes it's not that easy to say and to get. But over time, whenever you're working in the position that I'm currently working, you get to know that, and then you start asking questions, and then asking when you're in a position such as mine is the most important thing. And I learned this from a Portuguese boss that I previously have in the retail business. And he said, never be afraid of asking. Ask me as much as you can, but ask. There's no dumb question. Ask, and do not do anything without knowing what you're doing. And, so simple things make a big impact.
That is super helpful. Even just for somebody like me, I ask for things, but I don't give a deadline. because everything is like, I want it done now, but now is not reasonable when you have other things that you're working on. But even if I said this is my best even for all of the little tasks, if I said, by end of day today or by end of day tomorrow, like, I think it would be very helpful to the team of understanding what is the priority, and then be like, hey, Shawn, by the way, you have 10 things that you all want by end of day. You prioritize these for me and let me know which ones are the most important.
Yeah, right. Sure. Thank you,
Amazing.
guys.
Thank you so much for being here on the show. We're really happy to have you. Christian, you're up. Who are you? What are you working on? And share a story about delegation.
Good afternoon, everybody. Shawn, thanks for doing these little lives here, because for me, I already have a page of notes, because it sounds like you made all the mistakes. Thank God I don't need to make them. So my name is Christian. I help entrepreneurs turn their ideas into strategies that actually grow. So through my companies, I build smarter businesses and help people move forward. So my story is, and first off, I like what you said, Shawn. How do you communicate with your team? And there was this guy I once asked, what should I do for us to grow our businesses? And he said to me, Christian, you need to have a podcast. And I said, okay, what else you got?
What else you
got? Well, I don't like the way I look on camera. I don't like I sound on camera. He says, Christian, you want to be the show and not the commercial, And I said, no, okay. And now we're 200 plus episodes in.
Amazing.
But for me, I like what all of you guys said, because for me, leadership. So delegation is leadership. Delegation for me is self-leadership, because it's not about dumping tasks. It's about giving the right work to the right person. And I like the way you said this, Raquel, because for me, for the longest time, I thought you in the food service industry, okay, you must feel the way I do, or the way Jason does, okay, get it done. And I'm also like you, Shawn, if I ask for it, it would be great if I have it in 10 minutes. So for me, the hardest thing was for me is to learn is what motivates somebody. And I read about it for so long. I heard about it. I listened to it. I never actually did it. So for me, there's 3 things I learned, and I think any entrepreneur needs to do. First of all, you need to trust your team. And that's, for me, it was probably the hardest thing to do, because for me, if I didn't see people doing it the way I wanted to do that, did it myself. And my wife got so mad at me, and she kept saying, why do you have them if you do it yourself? I said, it's easier for me to do it yourself than to talk to somebody about it. So trust your team. The second one is you need systems, and that because good systems matter. And if you don't document the process, you know what, your delegation fails. And then for me, start small. And I have a little thing here. I have here, I call it progress over perfection.
Mm-hmm.
And that really goes to what all of you guys said. It's really about how can it, so for me today, I hope nobody listens from my staff. I have them into 5 numbers. And I know if I need to give somebody, I look at it, it says, hey, this is really a number 1 task. And I have 2 people like that. I have a number 4. Who could I give this to? And giving the right tasks to the right people. That was really the hardest thing for me, because I just thought everybody needs to just think the way I do. And unfortunately, it doesn't work. And so for me, the end of the day, if I need to put it into one thing, Shawn, is for me, delegating is about leadership, self-leadership. Because if you show that you can do multiple things and have an impact doing it, is much better than being the bottleneck of that. Okay. Yeah. And so for me, the hardest thing was to kind of let go and let other people do that thing and learn what motivates them. And that was for me the biggest thing. And at one point, I had just about 4,000 people which reported to me. It was really hard to do it all yourself, so you kind of had to do this. But the end of the day, I think real delegation is a leadership skill. And people learn that.
Christian, what's on your plate today that you should be delegating?
Oh, Shawn, you know that. So there's this guy who said to me, you need to do this. So I have a podcast studio over there now. Okay. So we built this podcast studio because my marketing person said, Christian, you need to do other videos than just this. So we have this thing over there. I come in this morning, all of it was done. And I was like, oh, I would have maybe done it differently. And yeah, just saying, but it's done.
You need to look at your sticker.
Progress.
I know. Thank you.
Not perfection.
She said the same thing. And it's just, oh my God. Sometimes I get caught in that. I need to do it myself because I want it a certain way. It's harder for me to tell somebody to do it and actually mapping it out. Hey, this is what I was thinking and everything else. So what I'm currently working on is trying to bring all of this together. So we launched our podcast 2 years ago. Like we have 150,000 followers now. We have 200 plus episodes out there.
Amazing.
And it's taking on a life on its own. And, some of the other people know I sold 11 of my 17 businesses. So that was also a smart move. And I think at the end of the day, you have two people right on the bottom here, Jason and Troy, which are amazingly good in what they do. So I just come on these podcasts. So I see what Jason does. I see what Troy does. Then I just do it better.
Yeah.
Amazing. That's amazing. Yes.
I want to insert an example
of
a couple of things that you were just talking about here,
Sure.
how we wind up having to find how to delegate. And a good friend of mine pops into mind because he's up to 16 units now, but he started his company, his restaurants from the culinary side. And so when he got into more leadership, fundraising, delegating, management development, he said the way that he helped himself prioritize is going back to the only thing he knew back when he first started with Run Restaurant in the Kitchen, and how he had prep stations and production guides on clipboards, and they were all color coded, so that this way, instead of him just being able to tell, I got 14 things I need to be done, and everyone assumes they're all top priority, or I want all these things done, which means, like you were saying earlier, they should all be done by the end of the day. He said it was easier for him to understand when he was talking about food and batches, because he could color one things that were the top priority before the lunch opened, and these things were medium priority, and these things were last. And he said, so once he got into leading teams, he kept the same color coordination. And so they still work off of timelines of what department's doing what and who's in charge of what and what color is a top priority due first. And here's the yellow. These are the more moderate priorities. They get more time. And it's basically kitchen prep list that's now supervising 16 unit company.
Amazing. So for anybody that's watching, go ahead, Christian.
Shawn, somebody from my team just gave me a note. She says, Christian, just remember, measure outcomes, not hours. So I stand corrected.
There it is. So just a reminder to everybody watching, we are a Rising Tide community. If you want to host a show, please reach out to us. We have opportunities for you to host these live shows. You get to pick the topic. You get to bring the community in. We do restaurant technology showcases on Fridays. So every Friday, it's called Pitch the Tide. If you have a restaurant technology company and you want to pitch the tide, get community feedback on your pitch, on your story, those have been going really well. We had Jason Berkowitz last Friday, Aaron Hooper 2 Fridays ago, Elizabeth Doss will be this Friday. But in the spirit of delegation, I am going to ask Chris, would you be willing to take over my host responsibilities as I need to go to a client call and get through today's call?
Me? Sure.
Yeah. Thank you, Chris. And thank you, Biseglia. Thank you, community. Pass it over to Chris. This is how we delegate.
I love it. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll take the lateral from Shawn and see if we can continue the play. Go have a good call.
He's frozen.
Okay. So listen, we have to hear from a few more folks. Okay. Vincenzo, thank you so much for your input, and Raquel already. Christian, we just finished. How about you, Dean LeBay? Give us your story. What are you working on now? And how have you learned lessons of proper delegation?
Well, thanks, Chris. I appreciate it. My name is Dean LeBay, LA_BAY. I'm a media consultant with CaliBarbecueMedia.com. No, Cali barbecue media, excuse me. Delegation. It's kind of like what Christian and you have already spoken about. You know, in the restaurant in the restaurant business, most of the time it's the chef. I'm gonna go back to when I started my started my first business, which was an office supply company. This was in the '90s, and I was smiling and dialing and paper clips and whatever. But what had happened is my business was growing fast, and I secured a state contract with the state of Arkansas and the state of Texas. So that was going to take up about 80% of my time, but I still had these customers that I needed to take care of, and I still needed to grow my business. So I went back through some of the guys that I knew that were really good at this, and I hired a guy out of Dallas and brought him in and hired him and three other ladies to, you know, start smiling and dialing and take care of the business I got and help build the business while I was focusing on the school districts because that was the gravy. I mean, that money was coming in and I knew that it sustained my growth. What happened with that was this is me and my wife. I'd come home at night and she said, Dean, you know, they just don't act right when you're not there. I said, well, baby, I can't be there all the time. I said, you know, you got to help me out there. She said, well, ain't that why you hired Jimmy? I said, well, yeah. So next day I went in and I said, Jimmy, I said, you know, Pam said, a lot of stuff's going on here while I'm not here. What's going on? He said, well, here's the numbers. And he'd show me the numbers and I'd say, man, those damn good. He said, who cares what we do when you're not here as long as you get the numbers? So, you know, delegation is, I mean, it's kind of like the chef. The chef knows how to cook it and all that, but delegating it, you know, like the accounting, the business part of it, a lot of times they may not know it. That's where they may need some help. For me, that's the only really story I got about delegation. Since I sold that company and the printing company and tool bit company, I got into the restaurant industry in 2006. So that was basically selling equipment, back-end equipment. So that's my story. That's not a real exciting one, but I'm glad Raquel's here. I see Gia down in the bottom. And of course, always good to see Vinny and Christian and yourself. Thanks.
Chris, I'm going to, my apologies. I'm jumping on at 10:30 with Jason Brooks to do his podcast. I just want to jump in because I want to follow up what Dean said and pick up a point that I think is so important. Jason Berkowitz, Arab Training, longtime listener, longtime caller. So, Dean, what I heard was, you know, there was this sort of like, what is right while you're not there? And when you went and you looked at the numbers, you established that the numbers were looking good. My takeaway from the story is, and it might not be this, but something that's so important is I've spent a career getting the wheel, getting the founders off the hand of the wheel, right? And Chris, I know you've done this a bunch, and like this founderism and really getting them to delegate and let go. And a lot of times they'll almost sabotage what's going on because it's not right. It's not right. So really establishing what those KPIs are, right? Those key performance indicators. When you delegate or take something out of somebody's hand and be like, listen, it's not you walking in and telling me what you think, like even if there's a spot on the wall. Did the checklist done? Are there certain metrics we're hitting? What are the KPIs that we've agreed on so that we can measure objective success? Because we're always going to bring our baggage to it. And founders are everyone going to be these projections and baggage. So Dean, I love that idea of sort of saying, well, what does this look like objectively that when you're not here, the train is on the tracks? That's a huge takeaway for me.
Good point. Good point. You know, the other thing too, Jason, just to tag on to that, Dean, that I was getting from your story too, is the importance of surrounding yourself with the key players that do maybe very well at what you don't. You know, you made the point a couple of times about how, you know, it's important to delegate to things that you know you need and you don't necessarily do well yourself, like the culinary team that might need the accounting. That could work in many other instances as well. The operator who's good with systems, but obviously needs to delegate away HR or marketing. So that was another really good point you brought up, Dean. Jason, you got to take off. Good to see you again.
Good to see you guys. Take care.
Bye, Jason.
Hey, Troy, good to see you. Can we jump into you? Go ahead and explain
Hey,
what
Chris.
you do and Your challenges with delegating and other things.
I just I'm enamored with the fact that Christian Fisher has made an appearance. It's like about once a year he shows up. He's really good at watching everybody else's podcasts and getting everybody's guest on his own. He's really good at getting guests on podcasts. I need to learn from him how he does that. Delegating. Yeah, some of this has been said, but I might say it in a different way. Look, if you're in the privilege and position of leadership in any level, doesn't matter where you are, and people rely on you, or you rely more so on other people to accomplish the master plan, the collective goal, you have to accept a couple of premises. One, you cannot do it all. And most importantly, you cannot succeed at the highest ideal or achieve the highest best results when you do it by yourself, because people will do it by themselves. And I have a terrible affliction of trying to be that person. You have to accept that when you delegate, it will not be done the way you would do it, because they are not you. It may and most likely will be done to a lesser degree than your standard, because it's different, not because it's less quality. And so there's some misunderstanding about how to measure success. I think a lot of people look at, I delegated, it didn't result in the same outcomes I would have expected if I did it. Well, you probably don't know what those outcomes were, and you're being overly egotistical and audacious. And these are just lessons from somebody 33 years in the industry. I've had over 1,000 employees across many businesses that I own, invest in, co-found, or manage or run. And it's really hard to learn how to delegate and accept what happens after the fact. The reality and the main lesson here is you got to do two things as a leader. Do what you're best at when it comes to a task or a project or an action. Take on only what you are best at doing, and then delegate everything else out. But when you delegate, you have to provide leadership. You have to provide clear, concise instruction, clear expectation of not only outcome, but expectation of process and timeline, expectation of collaboration or data collection or research. You have to map it out. If you say, hey, go do this, I expect it back in 2 weeks, and you don't give them anything, again, super effing guilty of this. Happens to me more often than I'd like to admit. Then what can you expect when you don't get back what you wanted? You get it's
Right.
just like a computer or anything else. You only get back, like AI, you only get back information as good as the inputs you put in. So take the time, think it through, plan it out, and give that what they need. And by the way, empower them to ask for what they need. Not everybody needs the same. Some people need demonstration. Some people need written instructions. Some people need to sit down with you for 10 minutes and Q&A it, right? Ask them what they need to be successful at the task you're delegating them. And then your job is to provide knowledge, tools, experience, and resources so that they can accomplish that task. To wrap it up, I actually did this last week with my team intentionally the wrong way. I wanted to see what my team, my leadership team, would produce with limited information. And then I'm going to take that and I'm going to show them how everybody thinks differently. So what I did was I said, hey, everybody, I want you to take the most important, highest value, number one priority task on your plate today. What is that thing that you have to do and get right and produce today? And I want you to create an SOP and a checklist for that task today. So what I did was I cut our all hands meeting short by 90 minutes. I abruptly ended our all hands meeting. I said, imagine we are all sitting at this conference table together, because it was virtual at this one. And imagine we're going to spend another 90 minutes together talking about whatever. And instead of that, I want you to sit quietly and I want you to do this task. I also use the example of imagine you're sitting in class and you have an in-class homework assignment. You have an in-class assignment. Imagine, please do that. Take the next 90 minutes and think about that. And what I'm going to do with that is show them how all 10 of them produce something different. They all produced 100% different results, different formats, different form factors, different organization. Everything was different. And then I'm going to show them what the outcome looks like if they were uniform. If I had given them the template, and if I had given them clear instruction, and if I, right? And so what I'm doing is actually going to demonstrate to my team my failure. That in the past, I have failed to give you clear and concise instruction and expectation and the tools and resources you need to be successful, to give me what I want. If I just ask for something, I'm going to get 10 different things. But if I give you the roadmap and I give you the guidance, I will get 10 equal, similar, templatized results that we can then correlate. So it's coincidental we're having this conversation today because I recognize this failure in myself recently. I've been too busy. I've been too busy being busy. And it was important that my team got the support they needed and that I got from them what I needed from them, but I need it in a certain way. I need uniformity. I need specifics. I need the same information consistently. And so we're actually going through this exercise. By the way, I have to tell them this tomorrow. So hopefully nobody watches this when it posts today on LinkedIn, that this was the exercise, because they don't know that they're in an experiment right now.
I love it. I love it. So then that just begs the question, if you take a look at the things that are on your plate, that you're currently up to your elbows in, what are, if any, items that you're doing right now that you feel would be either better done delegated?
Bye, Dean. All 90% of them. Most of them. Almost all of them, to be quite frank with you. Look, it's an affliction. It is. Now, look, I'm a collaborator, so I may be the person leading that task or project item, but I do a good job of collecting stakeholder insights and perspectives and inputs, etc. But more and more, what I'm trying to do is kick off the project initiative campaign, whatever that thing is we're doing, and then hand it off. I just did it this morning. We're going to do a test of AI, the same AI, Polona AI, that Shawn's using at Cali Barbecue and Michael's using at Ungaro's using at Fish Company at San Pedro. And we're going to kick off a test of that. I got the entire team, all the stakeholders that I could imagine would need to be involved or need to have insight or be a part of this, contributing to this. And then I assigned Steve, our head of standards and compliance, our franchise consultant, I assigned him as the project lead. And then so I found it, I vetted it, I started the conversation. Now I'm handing it off. I got everybody in a room together with them. We did the demo. We had the conversation. We set clear expectations about what the project rollout and implementation and test looks like, what success looks like on the back end. Now, Steve, it's your ball. Go, take it. Right. So that's an example of me improving rather than just holding the ball and trying to do it all myself.
Well, it sounds like you're working well. Wish you well. Continued success as you improve in your delegation. So listen, we've got a few folks that have recently joined in. That's nice. Gia, Laura, Chad, I'm Chris Tripoli. In case we haven't met, this is a topic that we're exploring, having a ball with. It's all on how to delegate. And as an example of that, the chairmanship of this, so to speak, had been delegated to me from Shawn. And that's the reason why I'm kind of tossing the hot potato around. Gia, why don't we start with you if you wouldn't mind? Thanks for joining. Tell us who you are, what you're working on, and then give us a little lesson on delegation, maybe a lesson that you learned or a lesson that you give on delegation. I don't know, are we hearing you?
No. Gia, don't hear you.
Yeah, Gia, I'm afraid we can't hear you.
Same question, Laura. Unmute. Gia, we'll come back to you.
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, friends. The best advice I got on delegation was from my daughter. I think she was probably around 8 years old at the time. I have not mastered the art of delegating either in my personal nor my professional life, which is why I'm most effective as an individual contributor when I'm working. I tried my hand at sales management. I was absolutely terrible at it and went back into being a salesperson. And it's really where I'm most effective. And my daughter said, I was at home. So I've always loved to work. I've worked a lot of hours back when we were in Los Angeles, and I was national sales manager at a very large radio group. We would take the kids to the nanny's house when it was dark, and then pick them up when it was also dark. And then there would be very little time to do any type of chores or housework. So I was getting really upset with my husband because he was like relaxing, with the kids. I was in the kitchen trying to do dishes and everything and just like melting down. And my daughter told me, Mommy, the time to ask Daddy for his help is not when you need it. It's in advance.
Wait, how old was your child when they said this?
I think she was probably 8.
Yeah, I was going to say, wait a second. So is she had advanced relationship coaching at this point?
Yeah.
And from who?
I mean, you realize for some people, it takes about 40 years of having a relationship.
Yeah.
Ball blinks and we know how to communicate.
Exactly. Yeah. And I'm still trying to figure it out. So, she's always been a planner. She's a nurse, a NICU nurse, and she's going back to school to be a nurse practitioner. She's always thought kind of 5 steps ahead. And my personality is very much to be in the moment. And I do kind of like goal setting and vision boarding and all of that to say, this is what I want. And then I leave it to God and friends and everybody else to kind of bring it into my life and kind of do the next step. But some of us are really amazing at advanced planning. And so anyway, I'm not necessarily that person, but the thing that I love the most is being with my clients, being in restaurants, trying food, being able to personally understand how I can share the story of my restaurant clients with our corporate and government clients. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm Laura. I believe showing up is 80% of success. And when we show up consistently, we're unstoppable. For business, I'm in the business of showing up for my restaurant clients and bringing friends. And by friends, I mean 21 million expense account diners who are traveling for business, looking for great restaurants for dine-in, carry-out, catering, and private events. So yesterday I was at a restaurant, Troy. I got to see Troy and the entire Pepper Lunch team in the Irvine Spectrum Mall location.
Half the Pepper Lunch team. Half of us.
Okay. It looked like the whole power team.
Yeah, there's a couple people missing.
Who did I miss?
What a surprise. I'm sitting in Pepper Lunch. Laura walks in with a friend and it's just like, what? What is going on?
That was so cool because I had told we were eating at Paul Martin's American Grill. Great restaurant if anyone's eaten there. And just having an incredible lunch experience. They have an express lunch menu. Price point is a great value. They have a couple private dining rooms that we were taking a look at. They had a group that was in for a audio visual and a incredible lunch. They have an outdoor patio, tons of space. So anyway, that's what I love. And that's where I have my very most fun. And what happens, and you all know this when you're on the road, when you're out and you're in restaurants and you're meeting with people and experiencing things, your to-do list kind of piles up and, emails that you need to get back to and anything that takes that focused time. And so I need to make sure that I block out time to get all of that done as well. Right. So the key for me is just to not to overschedule myself. And when I look at Troy's schedule, I'm like, I could not keep up with that schedule because I would never be able to do all the follow-up and the kind of deep thought concentration work I need to do on my computer. So that's my story.
Good points. Good goal. Good points. Good story. Hey, Gio, let's try you again. Unless you've delegated audio to somebody else, maybe you can kind of click on unmute.
Hear me now? Can you hear me?
Nice.
Oh my, okay. It was on my phone. My phone microphone was hooked up.
Okay, well, good. Well, you are here. So tell us a little bit, the Toast Chick, what you're doing. Speak to delegation, lessons learned, and how you do at it.
Okay, so I'm an independent toast consultant. I help restaurants set up toast properly and also Extra Chef, which is part of the Toast platform. And that's where my expertise has been, is with inventory management and recipe building. Delegating to chefs to get me information is the biggest pain in the ass I've had because I can't input information if they don't give it to me. So delegating or having them delegate to get information has been the biggest challenge that I see. So I'm having to dig in and talking to chef's assistants, kitchen managers, just to pull information. Have them send me the invoices because they're just not. It's nuts. I think the kitchen staff is the hardest one to delegate anything to, in what I'm seeing. In my own personal business, I do have 2 people I brought on to work with me, and delegating to them to get things done. I found that if I create manuals, screenshots, this is how I want it done, SOPs, this is how it has to go, videos, watch this. Doing that ahead of time has helped me not pull my hair out because I want it done a certain way. It has to be input a certain way. So for me, delegation within my people is by creating the SOPs step by step, so they don't have to call me and say, did I do this right? They're following it, and then I can double check it. So I've got 2 ends of the spectrum when it comes to delegating.
Sure. Well, I mean, in my opinion, what I see, one, the 2 people that you brought on, a little bit more of the traditional delegation.
Right.
Let go, set goals,
Yes.
follow up, support, evaluate how they're doing. Traditional steps, I think we would see in delegation.
Right.
When it's working with the clients, I don't know if it's so much as delegation as it's a list of, roles and needs, because in order for you to do your job, they've got to produce information for you. How is anyone else maybe who's been in that kind of a situation where you've now got a separate party, people who aren't really working for you, and yet you have needs from them. And if you don't get those needs from them, you can't really do what you're doing.
Exactly.
That's a little different of a staircase to climb. Anybody want to join in? Who's been there? How do you get to that mountaintop?
I'll jump in and just say that for onboarding for me, for clients, I have a checklist, and it's short. It's a 4-item checklist. And I say, before we can go live, here are the 4 things we need. If my contact, who's the agreement signer, is the one who sends that to the team and copies me and says, we need this by this date, it goes a lot faster.
Yes, I realized that because I didn't have those checklists, and now I do. It's a long one. I need this
Okay.
before it can even start. So yes,
Yeah.
I've learned that the hard way. By doing
And
that.
even if you can make the checklist shorter somehow, to just like, if they look at it at a glance, they're like, oh, and then even before the agreement signing, we talk about here are the next steps and the required items. And if it looks, it's got to be as simple as possible.
Right. Otherwise,
because if it's,
they won't sign with you if it's a zillion things on the checklist, is what I see. Oh, and by the way, I'm in Huntington Beach. I wish I would have known about yesterday, Irvine. That would have been so cool to go to.
Yes. All right. We'll have to connect offline.
Yes. So thank you for that. Yes, the checklist thing has now been part of my onboarding process.
And I really like that point. Thank you, Laura. I've had success with things that were similar, where in order to keep people from getting that overwhelmed feeling, instead of giving them, say, one task, maybe breaking it into as many as 6 steps. I'm familiar with what you're going through. I've had clients there. They love toast. They want to set up Extra Chef. They think it's going to be a miracle, but they're poorly prepared. So once they see that, oh, I've got to owe somebody like Gia all this information, because if she can't put in the batch recipes, if she can't put in the individual plate recipes, I'm not going to get accurate costs. I'm overwhelmed because I've got 87 of these. But instead, if they get one list saying we're only going to do cold prep right now.
Right.
This is what I need. Okay, we're only going to do whatever, maybe hotline saute right now. Can you give me these? I need them by a week from Friday. And then, so in your mind, what you really need is 116 things. They only know that they've got to produce, say, 15 at a time. That might be an easier pill to swallow. But how do you guys handle things where you're delegating and you feel like they are catching it, but they really aren't because they're just poorly prepared? I think Gia is going to face that a lot, because there's a tremendous amount of culinary professionals that will tell the toast worker, yeah, I got that information. Give me some time. I'll put it together. Then when she leaves, they don't. Yeah. They don't have the batches written. They don't have the items currently costed. So they tell her, sure. That's not going to be a problem. Well, it's really going to be a problem because they don't really have it current They don't have it online. They haven't really developed it. So you almost have to go back and ask them, how can you help them get this information to me? Because they, in some cases, don't have it. Anybody else seen that? Yeah.
Just one more thought. Let me just say one more thing is that I don't know how much time it would take for you to hold hands with these folks that you need the information. But even if you were able to schedule a meeting via Zoom or in person and say, let's work on this together, this is where you find this. I mean, that might be unrealistic.
No, Laura, it's 100% hand holding. That's why I've had to hire 2 people to do like invoice uploads and code all the products, because I have to sit on the phone with Chef going, okay, so what are we making right now? Just tell me and I'm going to write it down for you, because you're not going to write it down for me. It is 100% hand holding with these companies. I'm shocked how they run a business with no recipes written, no cost done. And they've been in business for years. And I'm like, do you even know if you're making money? Like, where are you losing money? And it's interesting because 6 items that I did right off the bat, they were at a 60% food cost.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. And I'm like, I showed them right off the bat. I go, guys, your menu is priced incorrectly for these top items that you're selling. Because that's what I did. I went to the top sales items in toast that they sold the most. And I pulled those first. And they were shocked. They were shocked. I was like, guys, that's why you're losing money. Is like you're not costing properly, or your recipes are using too much, and maybe you can cut back. So yeah, Laura, absolutely hand-holding in this business with what I'm doing.
Thank you.
Quick question for you, Gia. Does Toast orient some type of reward program to incentivize these chefs to communicate more clearly? Because I mean, it's something we introduced during our retrospectives. You know, we review results, we rework things, we remove things, and then we reward, right, as part of the retrospective. So is that something that you guys are introducing?
Okay, I'm not understanding what you said.
So is there a way for you guys to orient a reward system for them to communicate more effectively or transfer data to you guys so that you can onboard them more seamlessly?
Well, because
maybe a gift card, or something like that, right? Or a new chef code, from Toast.
Yeah.
So,
well,
right?
Toast doesn't have anything. I'm independent. I don't work for Toast. The reason I'm around is because there is no support. I mean, the support that comes from Toast, the onboarding, is so minimal and so basic that when they get into how they've set the menus up, which are incorrect, Extra Chef is the same thing. Onboarding is very short. They don't have the staff to sit there and help you understand and build or reward or anything. They literally, it's 4 meetings and you're done. And I'm coming across, these people are finding me now on LinkedIn because of all my content, going, oh my God, can you help us? Because we have no support. And it's, look, Toast support's great when you're having a problem with the actual software and things aren't working. But when it comes to setting up menus and not understanding your menu, I've had to rebuild one restaurant. When I learned the program 1.5 years ago, I rebuilt the menu 4 times because they uploaded it. Like I gave them information. It wasn't right. Okay. Wipe the system clean, upload it again, wipe the system clean. Then I had to do it by hand. I could not get it to work by uploading anything. It was each item had its own modifiers. That modifier had a modifier. It was insane.
That's why the service you provide is just so important, because although that's a great question, you're right on target. The Extra Chef add-on program doesn't really have incentives, doesn't come with tremendous support.
No.
And it's a shame that it doesn't, but thank you for doing what you're doing. I wanted to switch on that point. Oh, we lost him. That point that you were making about not knowing cost and key items and not being profitable. I thought this is great. We got a segue to Chad, who's going to talk to us about the restaurant accounting and accountability, but I think we lost Chad. Okay, so what I'd like to do with the time that's remaining is let's go around the horn a little bit and maybe throw out a good tip, not just so much on the delegation, but a tip that you've either learned or a tip you'd like to share on teaching when you were working with clients or working with key staff. What are the steps that you follow to teach them to be better delegators or teach them to delegate to begin with? Let's just go around the horn and share some tips on that. So Vincenzo, can we start with you, please?
Sure. A simple tip that I like using is ask why. So you know how to solve for X, and then go about it in bite-sized chunks. So there's no confusion, right? Just keep things simple.
Great.
Solve for one thing at a time, solving for X, right? But start with asking why.
Well, yeah, starting with why is, great step. That's going to help everyone understand why is the point of getting more done through delegating, why I'm going to be able to do my better job easier and enjoy it better. Starting with why. Great point. Dean, how about a tip on training or telling somebody, how to delegate to others? Uh-oh, Dean, did we lose you? Can you unmute? Okay, we'll come back. Christian, please.
I think Dean is really good in holding still. Oh, he's frozen. So for us, it's 4 simple questions. Who does the work? Who owns the outcome? Who gives the input? And then who stays in a loop? And that's the 4 things we do in every single process we have, every single question we have. And that's working for us. And that's what we do. And I don't remember who we learned that from, but it's the single best thing we're doing. Simple 4 questions, and that's what we do.
Good points. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Laura, sure.
I'm sorry. So for me, it's no overlaps, no confusion, no drop balls. It made all the difference for us.
Tip on training for others to delegate better. How about you, Laura?
Okay, I'm not the right person to ask about this, but I think for anybody in a sales role, which is absolutely all of us,
Yes.
The best advice I got when I was feeling overwhelmed was from a previous sales manager, and he said, stay close to the money. So if you're wondering about, this is more about how to prioritize, but for any of us that have a bunch of projects and a bunch of balls in the air related to work, which ones are the closest to closing? Do everything that you need to, figure out the checklist of every task that needs to happen on that particular project, and then go to the next one and just keep spending your time and your focus next to the ones that are the closest to closing. I even have a little Post-it note next to my computer that says that. It's probably backwards. But that's when that's really more about prioritization, but creating a checklist about how to help the project closest to closing make it to the finish line.
Good points. Good points, because that's closest to what I was thinking. I was thinking when you delegating correctly takes us back to, say, when we were in class. Listen to what really good teachers do. Good teachers basically aren't doing the work for us. They're giving us direction. They're giving us the deadlines. They're telling us what's due. They'll be there to support. They'll be there to answer questions along the way. But we have to do the doing. So if we have subordinates and we're wanting them to delegate better, we kind of have to just go back to our days of the teachers that we liked the best and try to follow those steps. I admire how teachers can teach, because it's constantly teaching others to prioritize their time, delegate their duties, get the right results. They'll be there to support us. They'll answer questions. They're not doing any of the work for us.
And to piggyback on that, I really like, Dean, your story, and others have said the same thing, but who cares how people get to the result, as long as the result is positive. Empower people to do it their way and cheer them on for their creative style.
Exactly. Raquel, how about you? Tips on getting it done, how you help others delegate.
I think one important tip would be, as a leader, if you want to really delegate in a good way, try to not only delegate tasks, but also outcomes. You know what I mean? Just like the result that you really want or the goal that you're looking for. And that it's very in line on with what Laura was saying. You also have to delegate what you want from the person, right? So that will be my tip, Chris.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Gia, back at you, Toast Chick.
Well, it's my first day on here and just trying to get this whole delegation thing going. What I do for like the restaurants, when I delegate a task to the person in charge, I go through the process of what it is I'm asking. I don't just hand them the list of what they need to do, but I go through the outcome that I need and make sure that they understand what I'm looking for so they can give it to their staff and explain what we need to do. Because if I just hand it to them,
right,
not explaining why I need it and what it's going to do for us by doing it this way, they can't present that to their staff.
So that's a good point. So it is education, information, so they understand the expectation.
Yeah, exactly.
Troy, what's your tip? Since you've got a tremendous amount of departments you lead in others, what's a good tip to share on getting your people to delegate better?
Yeah, I think what I wanted to share was an interesting tactic that has served me really well, and I've heard other people use it, which is in the moment when you give the task or when you give the instruction or you set somebody on a path, their first thing they're usually going to do is turn around and ask you for advice or how would you do it? How would you go about this? Or very specific questions. Before I ever just give the answer, I try to remember to ask them what they would do. Hey, before I tell you what I would do, what do you think's the right answer here? How would you go about it? How would you process this? 99% of the time, they're right. They already know. That's why you're out delegating it to them. You know they can do it. You know they can figure it out. You know that they may even have better ideas than you, or they may do it in a better way or present it in a better way. So when they turn around and say, okay, but what about this and what about that? And how do you want this and what do you want it to look like? Hey, how would you do it? How would you make it look? How would you, what do you think it should look like or be done and how? And 99% of the time they're right. And by the way, sometimes they tell you stuff you didn't think of and you're like, that was a good idea. And you let them go about it. I got to run. I got another call, but good to see everybody.
Good to see everyone. Hey, Dean, before we get going, we're going to go back to you. You were muted. We're going to take a little tip on how to take what we've learned today, how you would train others, tip to give them to delegate better.
Oh, Chris, I don't know. This is the only way I know is how I used it before when I had the office supply company. Whenever I'd hire somebody in or get a new sales manager, I told him this is what I expected. Then I would ask him, is that doable? And then if they said no, then I'd ask why, and we'd talk through it. But I always started with what I wanted the end result to be, that where we had to get to make the things happen. So that's how I did it. Is that the right way? I don't know.
Okay.
Like I said, I was pushing paper clips back in, but that's what I did. What's the end result, and how do we get there? And that's, to me, that's the most important thing. Making sure that we get whatever it is we're trying to do, get it done, and then so we can move on to the next one.
Well, no matter how we slice the pie,
Thanks.
it seems like how to delegate seems to kind of include a willingness to step back. The need to have the team that you're going to be delegating to. That was a point I think made a couple of times. Raquel, thank you very much for bringing that up. If you're surrounding yourself with the people that you know you need, I think that was a point we got from Dean. So that means you might have the right people and you have the people that you know you need because they specialize maybe in the area that you don't. That does make the delegation a little bit easier. Some really good tips, though. What I liked best today was just the personal stories of how we all sort of stumbled at this. Is Mike coming back on? I don't know how we wrap this up now.
Hey, Chris.
I typically don't, but I'm happy to do it. Yeah,
Hey, Chris.
You want to take us home? Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, there's Mike. Yeah, I think our time is up. I think we're wrapping up. This was fun for me. I appreciate the last minute lateral from Shawn. Happy to bounce
Chris,
around.
can you hear me?
I got a lot of it. Dean, yeah, I hear you just fine. You there? We're having trouble with Dean?
I just wanted to say, no, can you hear me okay? What I
Yes.
wanted to say was thanks, Raquel, and thanks, Gia, for coming on. And if you're not connected with each other on LinkedIn, please connect with each other. This community gets better as we bring new people in and get different ideas. That's what this is all about. It's a rising tide. As we rise up, as we lift others up, we lift ourselves. And Raquel and Gia, y'all been killing it on LinkedIn. So let's keep doing that. And like I said, I am so Benny, my God. I mean, I didn't. The more I know about you, it's scary, man. I didn't know you was that smart. So anyway, that's all. I just want to thank the guys for coming on and make sure we link with each other.
And I also want to say thank you, Raquel, for being here in your role. And of course, Gia and Vincenzo. Chris, thank you for leading. Dean, always amazing to be with you. But Raquel in particular, in your role as someone who gets delegated to a lot, what has really come clear to me in this conversation is how much more fun it is for everybody if we sit down and say, hey, we have this great opportunity, here it is. Here's what it's probably going to take for us to win. How can we tackle this together? And as opposed to just assigning some random task that you have no idea, how it will even help. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Laura.
We're going forward, measuring success, not measuring the method. We're going to be measuring results, not so much getting hung up on the method. Good points today, guys. Hey, thank everyone so much. Couldn't say it better than Dean. We all seem to lift each other up, and we all do better when we do. So I look forward to seeing you guys on another one of our Rising Tides really soon. Thanks for your time today. Michael, I think we're all done.
Bye. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everybody. See you guys. Thanks, Chris. Bye, Dean.
Thank you. See you.